Wednesday vibes. I don't know, not very Friday vibes. Okay. But thank you so much for coming, everyone. My name is Bayazin Muhammad Osman. I'm a Sudanese activist. I also do consultancy work, poetry, and I'm just very excited to be here with everybody to learn from the young women mobilizing for peace and to stand in solidarity with my sisters. And I'm going to pass it over to my co-host.
Hi everyone, my name is Rana Abdelhamid and I came all the way from Queens, which is really, really far. And I'm born and raised in Queens. I'm a Queens-based organizer. I'm the executive director of an organization called Melika, or the Melika Safety Center that's based in Astoria's Little Egypt. And I'm also a Nala Femme council member and very happy to be organizing through a Pan-African lens through Nala Femme.
So with everyone being here today, we want to acknowledge the context of the situation and what has been going on in Sudan. We're going to hit the 2-year anniversary very soon in April, and millions have been displaced. Millions have been displaced, thousands have been murdered. So this moment, I hope we continue to reflect on those we have lost, and no more souls will be sacrificed for this time. And this event is also a part of a larger campaign that's going to be launching today. And it aims to amplify the voices of Sudanese women and young global feminist organization advocates for leadership and peace globally. This event is the work of Nala Femme Sudan Task Force of Sudanese women of multiple generations. And they are determined to ensure visibility and solidarity of feminist movements across the world. To stay engaged throughout the evening and throughout the movement in general, please continue to use the hashtag #SudanIsBleeding when posting on social media. And we also we're grateful to our NYU host for having us today. And we also want to especially note to the students and the youth advocates in the room with us, you guys will be the ones that move the message forward, and we appreciate your time today. So, I want to do a quick pop quiz for everybody, if that's okay.
Yay!
Yay! No? Okay, sorry.
Pop quiz.
All right, we'll try to make it fun. So we want to know how much you know about the Sudanese cause currently. So go ahead and scan the QR code that's on that screen or this screen right here.
You gotta take out your phone to participate.
Yes.
This is like your one opportunity where you will be asked to take out your phone. So have fun.
Yes. It's a short little quiz and, you know, a little pre-test to see how everybody stands and the general idea of, I'll give everyone maybe 2 minutes. Feel free to put your phone away once you've completed the pop quiz.
Okay, I have to take the test too. Oh, it's not working.
The host has to start the quiz.
The host has to start it. Who's starting? Okay, some technical difficulties because it's normal. Oh, no, but it's not started for people. Like they don't.
We can do it together.
Oh, we can do it live.
Yeah, I'll do it live.
Okay, there's no tech involved. Now we're gonna do it manually.
We're gonna do it manually. First question: what color is the flag of Sudan? Quickly.
You have to stand up to answer.
Oh, no. Okay.
Wait, raise your hand, okay? We'll choose you.
All right.
Someone raise their hand, actually, for real. All right, do you want to go?
Sure. Green,
Wow, great
got
job, everybody.
Woo!
This is the test question. We're just testing the energy, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Y'all did not pass the vibe check with that first question. More energy.
The next one is not anywhere in this room, so good luck to y'all. Which animal is the national symbol of Sudan? What is the national animal of Sudan?
Yeah, that's close. That's
Khaltuk
good.
pretty much got it. Secretary Bird. She
Amazing.
got it. Yeah. We'll give it to Khaltuk. Khaltuk. Woo! Ooh. Sudan is known for having the most pyramids in the world. Facts, facts. How many pyramids are in Sudan?
Yes. The shade. It's okay.
That's on period. That's on period.
I accept it. How many though?
50, 100?
More than? No.
Don't be too ambitious now.
I'm like, not that much.
Let's be
more than
realistic
we
now,
just-
sis.
A little more than 70. So specific, yet so not right.
Yeah. Double it.
Yeah. Double 93.
Take your time. Closest
Close.
answer.
Woo, 200. Over 200.
Yeah, around 200.
Over 200.
You want to do the next one?
Oh, I can do the next one. Which type of traditional clothing is most commonly worn in Sudan? Commonly worn in Sudan. Oh, you're saying an answer. No. Yes. Who said it? Great. Tobe and? Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
I'm learning too. I'm in the pop quiz.
It's dialects. There's so many dialects, and I think that's an important part.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the other thing? Is it also? Yes.
There we go.
Great job.
Yeah.
All right.
And then
That's it, right?
that was this one.
Oh.
Cool, good. All right, last one. Which ancient civilization lived in what is now Sudan? What kingdom?
Yeah. You said the Kush King.
Who said it?
You said it.
Kush.
Good
yeah.
job.
Kingdom of Kush.
Yay! Y'all are so smart.
Kingdom of Kush.
Yes.
All right, great work, everybody.
All right. Is that it? Safety. Okay, great. So we want to make sure that we're in a space where everyone is also honoring their feelings. We're going to be talking about a lot of different topics that might bring up different feelings for folks. And so we just want to make sure that we're not only respectful of ourselves and our bodies, but also respectful of the space that we're co-creating together and the learning that we're going to do together tonight. So actually, I'm going to read a safeguarding statement that was co-created by the task force and NALFM council members that was important for us to bring here today so that we could all share it together in space. Okay, so the safeguarding statement is, we are committed to ensuring a safe and respectful environment for all participants. Harassment, discrimination, or any form of harm will not be tolerated. And if you experience anything or see anything that felt harmful to you or someone around you, we actually have someone in this space who will help us create accountability. That is Sylvia. So Sylvia, if you could raise your hand in the back so folks know to come to you. You could feel free to go to Sylvia if you need to express anything that you've witnessed or personally experienced. Okay? Sound good? Please give me a thumbs up if you agree with our safeguarding statement. Great. All right. The next thing that I wanted to mention is I just wanted to note the exits that are in the space, although I don't know all of them, but you all will help me because it's going to be collaborative. So there's an exit right here, and then there's an exit that many of us came through. Is there another exit that we should be aware of? So 2 exits in case of an emergency and we need to leave the space, just being aware of that so that we are all taking care of each other and we're all safe together. Okay? And then if you have any questions at any point throughout the night, you could feel free to reach out to any of the staff members on site as well, any of us as well, and we're happy to assist you. We know that it's not that long of a program, but we're gonna be here together breaking bread as well later on. And so feel free to come up to us if you need anything. Great? Okay. So with that, I wanted to actually talk a little bit about our call to action, and then also if you wanted to add to the call to action as well. As was mentioned earlier, there was this petition that a lot of our incredible task force members that are part of NALFM Council have worked on. This board of council members and task force members is actually an intergenerational board of Sudanese women who for months have been thinking about ways in which they could amplify voices, they could actually challenge the current systems that exist, the power structures that exist, that oftentimes circumvent or push out of the way voices of women and girls. And these women have been working really hard to make sure that Sudanese women's voices are at the forefront and have come up with this really awesome petition that we're gonna ask you all to take part in tonight as the launch of a campaign. Anything you'd like to add?
Just that, how important this is, and to definitely connect, is it on? To definitely connect with all of the women on stage today and to continue to follow their work and find additional ways to support them.
Yeah, and we will be having QR codes, so you could sign the petition before you leave. You will not get food unless you sign. No, I'm just joking. You should sign the petition. You will eat either anyway. We will share all of the food. But please do sign the petition. It's very, very important. And share it, and definitely use the hashtag while you do share it, okay? All right, so now I'm actually very, very excited to introduce our first and next speaker, who is my homegirl, but also a really incredible advocate, activist, leader, who I've learned so much from for so long, who many of you must be familiar with, Aya Shebi, who you all must know also because not only is she the founder and the president of Nala Feminist Council, but she is also the very first ever African Union Youth Envoy on youth. Got it. She was also part of the, yes. Get all your flowers, please. And she was part of the Tunisian youth-led movement, which actually ended a 23-year-old dictatorship. So that is something that's really powerful, and we're so grateful for her leadership.
Thank you. Okay. Give it up to our co-hosts. Awesome, awesome. Okay, short but mighty, yeah? Welcome everybody to the space. Welcome to NALFM family. I want to start with a moment of silence to the people of Sudan and everyone in wars and conflict who lost their lives. So if we can please all stand and have a moment of silence. Thank you. Tonight we gather for a Solidarity night with Sudan, a night of feminist power, cross-border mobilization, and collective action. We meet at a time when Sudan is facing the worst humanitarian crisis in modern history. Over 14 million people have been displaced. Women and girls make up 54% of those who are forced to flee. Women and girls are abducted, they are raped and held in slave-like conditions. The violence they endure is economic, it's psychological, it's sexual violence, and it's deeply systemic. The war on Sudan is also a war on women and girls. This is a war on their bodies and livelihoods. It's not just a crisis, it's a question of dignity. So our call today is a call for dignity. And this war is not happening in isolation. While Sudanese women fight for survivals, governments and private companies are profiting from the death of Sudanese people. The trade of arms continue, the silence of international community continues. Sudanese young women do not buy or sell guns, but they're the ones paying the price of warlords. We set up a task force of Sudanese women and feminist allies, and in our first meeting, Mama Samia Al-Hashmi, a lawyer and veteran in the struggle, I quote, said, "I don't know what we're not doing right. Maybe we're not doing enough. Maybe we're not good at telling our own story." And her words hit me because the truth is, Mama Samia, it's not you, it's us. It's the African and international community that's not doing enough. We failed, the Sudanese women and girls, we failed to show up and fight harder. And for that, we owe you an apology, and more than apology, we owe you action. And it's why we are all here, to mobilize, to amplify, to show up. Because we know the facts. 90% of peace processes fail within 5 years. When women are at the table, peace is 35 times more likely to last 15 years. Even bringing Sudanese women and activists to CSW this year has been a nightmare. CSW, for those of you who don't know, is the Commission on the Status of Women. Visa after visa, we had a list of 30 women, and visa after visa were rejected. But to avoid this space to become a gathering for women elite, the UN has to develop ways to secure inclusivity and not to be really fit for purpose. Tonight, we are joined by some of the fearless leaders, Haneen and Ines, who are from Sudan and whose courage and work is making a difference every day. Deborah, she traveled from Juba to be with us. Mama Laima, she is a Nobel Peace Prize laureate, but more than that, she's a force for peace in Liberia and whose wisdom can teach us a lot. Jaha and Rana, our council members who are committed to our collective mission for gender equality, and many of you, feminists at heart and activists and students who refuse to let Sudan fade into silence. This gathering is a start of a larger campaign we're launching on women political leadership in peace and security. And earlier today, we met with our delegation, including our Sudanese activists, met with the ambassador of the African Union to the UN, and we had commitments from her for deeper collaboration with young feminists. Last week, we opened a call, which you will find on the flyer, the QR code on the back, of a fellowship for women in peace and security. We're going to support 30 young peace builders across Africa to have the tools, the access, the mentorship they need to shape peace negotiations. And in July, we will convene our 4th NALAFEM Summit, whose focus is on women, political leadership, and peace and security. Each of you can get involved, sign the petition, partner to organize more Solidarity events, open the door for Sudanese women to be at the table. And the media also has a role to play to reshape this narrative and pay attention to this conflict. What's happening in Sudan is outrageous, but we fight with solidarity and we fight with love, because love is the most radical force for any movement. And I want to thank our partners, New York University, Thomas and Katerina, thank you for the unwavering support. I want to thank my team, very small but mighty. Sylvia is here, but Kene, Omom, and Reem are watching from Kenya and Nigeria. Celine from NYU, Jana, Irakli, Otu, and Nastasia, thank you for the live stream team to make sure really these conversations go beyond these walls. I want to thank everybody who have been able to show up, every single one of you in this room. Let us stand with Sudan. Let us make noise, because Sudan is bleeding, and we will not stop until the world listens. Thank you.
How are y'all feeling? I hope inspired so far. And thank you. Thank you, Aya, for grounding us and reminding us, and for the apology. So we're all here to learn and hold ourselves accountable. I am excited to introduce our next speaker. It is Thomas Hill. He is the director of the Peace Research and Education Program of the Center for Global Affairs at NYU. So please clap for him until he gets on stage.
Thank you. So, as I believe the only man on the program this evening, I am extraordinarily aware that you did not come here to hear me speak. So I'm going to keep it quite brief. Good evening. I am Professor Tom Hill, as you heard, the director of the Peace Research and Education program here at NYU, which we call PrEP. On behalf of our entire team, our small team, but our entire team, I'd like to welcome you all here to this event, to Young Women Mobilizing for Peace, a night of solidarity with Sudan, which we're hosting in collaboration with the Nala Feminist Collective. The organization that I direct, PrEP, works with universities, governments, and civil society organizations around the world in places such as Iraq, Colombia, Libya, Moldova, Sierra Leone, and the United States, supporting knowledge generation with our partners and conducting action research that we believe will contribute to making the world a more peaceful place and the communities where our partners work more peaceful spaces. We really believe that amplifying the voices of our partners and supporting cross-border knowledge sharing lie at the heart of what we do. And I certainly hope that we are making at least a small contribution in that direction this evening for Sudan. Welcome to all of our distinguished guests. I do want to note that we would absolutely not be here this evening if it were not for the amazing team at NalaFem and its indefatigable founder, Aya Shebi, whom we met several years ago when she was serving as the first ever youth envoy to the African Union. So thank you for thinking of us and for bringing this event to our doorstep. We're really delighted and honored to host you. We're here today to call attention to what some observers argue is the world's worst humanitarian crisis. Which was brought on by a long and violent armed conflict. Over 30 million people today in Sudan require humanitarian assistance. Thankfully, we're joined here this evening by members of the NalaFem Sudan Task Force, which is calling for an immediate ceasefire, gender-inclusive peace negotiations, and accountability for war crimes. But as I said, none of you came here this evening to hear me speak. So I'll finish by inviting you to stick around after the formal part of the program ends to enjoy some delicious light bites provided by Sudanese-born chef Gladys Chatou, is in the back somewhere, I believe. She's the chef and owner at Sambusa NYC, the only Sudanese caterer in New York City. So we're delighted to have her and her food with us as well this evening. So thank you very much for everyone for joining us, and now you can move on to the part of the program that you really came for. So, thank you.
Thank you, Professor Thomas. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your solidarity, allowing us to use the space, and your commitment to the work that we're doing as a community. So I'm very honored and very excited to introduce our next speaker. It is not every day that we get to hear from someone that is so profound in their work, in their commitment to peace, in their commitment to security, and to their commitment to justice. I'm delighted to introduce Ms. Lemia Bowie, who is a Liberian peace activist responsible for leading a women's nonviolent peace movement, Women of Liberia Mass Action for Peace, that helped bring an end to the Second Liberian Civil War in 2003. I don't know about y'all, but it's not every day that I get to listen to someone who helped end a civil war. Exactly, yes. Thank you. There's so much work, labor, love, vision that I'm certain your work needed, and so we are very lucky to be listening and learning from you tonight. Because of your work, Liberia was able to usher in a period of peace and enabled a free election in 2005, which actually led to the first woman elected ever to Liberia, which I'm sure, and to Africa, to African countries, which I'm sure many of you have probably heard of. Ms. Lemia Bowie also, along with Sirleaf, along with Tawakkul Karman, was awarded the 2011 Nobel Peace Prize for her nonviolent struggle for the safety of women and for women's rights, to full participation in peace-building work. So when someone tells you that women cannot lead the way, that women cannot end wars, that women cannot usher in democracy, you all will have the live example today that we can. So please welcome our esteemed guest. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I sent me this, and I didn't know it was going to be this fancy. Because Aya is the fancy feminist. That's her nickname moving forward, the fancy feminist. I'm really honored to be here, but first let me apologize. CSW has a way of slapping you left, right, center, and by the time it's done, you are either sick or you are exhausted. And I am both. So immediately after my talk, I've appealed to Aya that I have to run and climb in bed because I have a 8:30 tomorrow morning speaking on a Saturday. Only CSW would do that to you. So as I was doing my research, there were so many parallels with Liberia. 2-year-old, that's how long it's been. But I think it's been longer than that in terms of systemic and institutional suppression, oppression. 26 attacks on healthcare facilities, and I'm sure it's more than that. Shortages of basic human security needs of people, which the UN described as extremely acute. Inability for families in the diaspora to get any form of assistance to their people. 13 million worth of food looted since the inception. Tens of thousands killed. A nation divided by armed groups. This was the story of Liberia. And this is the story of Sudan. This is the story of Libya. This is the story of the Central African Republic. This is the story of many places around the world where wars are taking place. Unfortunately for us, this story will be incomplete if we forget to add the burden that is placed on women. The burden of caring for families, the burden for trying to protect themselves as well as protecting their children, the burden of trying to remain seen in the midst of chaos, the burden of negotiating lives of those who are dear to them. And I'm going to try my best to break this down for all of you. In 1989, at the age of 17, right after my high school graduation, Liberia went to war. Like many Africans, we grew up in a nation of our collective humanity. We did not have boundaries and borders and all of those things in our neighborhood. If you went to the next door neighbor, if they had food, you ate. If you stayed there till 6 p.m., they gave you your nighttime bath, and you went home in an oversized t-shirt. Everything was collective. I remember our graduation party because the war started up north. The party went from our house to the neighbor's house to the center of the community, and everyone was partying. The young people were in one house, the older generation in another house, the very young children at another place. When we moved from that community and went to a more sophisticated community, my sister and I recognized that we lived in a bubble. You know, sometimes people say rich people live in bubble. But when you understand Ubuntu, the sense of community, you too live in a bubble. Because the new neighborhood we went to, some young children came to us that morning to say they had not eaten. You can imagine our shock. Because we had never seen, from the moment we were born up to that moment, someone coming and saying, I'm hungry. That was a note burner in the community that we grew up in. And imagine, so I'm trying to ground you into that space of our socialization, where one person's pain was everyone's pain. But this story is not just the Liberian story, it's also the Sudan story. It's also Nigeria's story. It's also the story from Sierra Leone and all of those places that have experienced extreme crisis and violence. And then the war come and take everything away from you. And in that moment, in those moments, I was a very angry young woman. And I tell people that anger is a good thing. Someone says anger is not a good thing. I said, no, it's a good thing. Can I have a bottle of water, please? Oh, someone is bringing it for me. Thank you. So I always describe anger as fluid. Hitler was an angry man. Saddam Hussein was an angry man. Dr. King was angry. Rosa Parks was angry. Wangari Maathai was angry. I was angry. But the difference between us, those who are called heroes, sheroes, and those who are called villains, is that where we pour our anger. So most times when you're angry, there are two containers confronting you. The violent container and the non-violent container. And so in those years of my anger, I was trying to navigate, where do I pour my anger? Dr. King poured his into civil rights. Hitler poured his into killing millions of Jews. Mandela spent 27 years in prison because he was angry and refused to cower down to a system called apartheid. Wangari Maathai protested and did everything in her anger to save the environment in Kenya. Today, as we sit in this room, there are many angry people at the state of our world. But if we have to bring it home, there are many angry people at the state of Sudan. There are many angry people at the stories that they hear about the war and the killings and the abuse of women's rights and the sufferings of people. I was one of those people in my own country. And so after many years of going around with this fluid bubbling up in me, the opportunity presented itself for us as women to gather. The first time we sat in a room, the decks we used had hole in it from a bullet. The chairs we sat in was propped on bricks. We wrote our statement, and then we turned around and asked, how are we going to publish it? Because we didn't have a donor. And someone said, I have $10 in my handbag. And they said, oh, but we know a female journalist. And we called her and said, we have this statement, we need you to put it out. She came running. And she said, so what do you have for me to give to my manager? And we said $10. But as we wrote that story, one of the things, and for all of the young feminists in this room, there's something, every part of this story has a lesson, and I will stop and say. We wrote this statement, and someone said we should say the women of Liberia. And we said, this is disingenuous. 7 people cannot claim to be the women of Liberia. But we're 7 angry people, and we decided, I said, let's name ourselves. And so when we put the statement out with our names, the reason it gained media traction was because everyone wanted to know who these 7 fools were. In a moment of dictatorship, in a moment of violence, in a moment where no one was worried about how they killed you, what they did to you, we named ourselves. So as we named ourselves, the next day people wanted to come and see the 7 of us. And then we increased the number, we invited more people, we went to 23, and then 65, and 250, and 2,500. The point that I make to all of you is that we were determined, not because we were looking for any form of notoriety or any kind of accolade. It was about a nation. of 3 million people at the time that has successfully killed 10% of her population. 500,000 of us had become refugees. 1 million internally displaced. Allegedly, 65% of women had been sexually abused or sexually violated. You're talking about a whole generation of people. We live in a time where as children were walking to school, the trucks would come and pick them up and throw them in there. They will use one night to teach them how to shoot an AK-47, and the next day they were on the war front. By the time we decided that we were going to protest, there was nothing left to dream about. You went to bed grateful that you were alive, and you woke up worried whether you would live through the day. We didn't survive, we didn't thrive, we only existed. And if someone tells you that there is a time in your life where you just exist, do you know what that means? You have no dream for your future. You have no outlook on life. I'm painting this picture to say if you call anyone from Sudan, they will tell you this is us. Yeah. Because it's not just a Liberian story. When we decided to stand up for peace, we decided that it was a moment where we were not going to back down. Did we have any sophisticated ideas? No. We were armed with our faith. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we live in a time where the world is calling all of us to come together. Systems and structures have galvanized themselves to be more evil. So it is our time to galvanize ourselves to be more strategic. So for us, Liberia started with 2 armed factions. And by the time we were starting our movement, those armed factions had turned into 14 armed factions. That's Sudan today. Every corner has an armed group. That's Libya today. And so if these people are dividing themselves with the barrels of guns, the times are calling us to divide ourselves strategically for peace. So what we did was void of religious barriers, void of social barriers, void of everything else, we came together. And one slogan that stuck: can the bullet pick and choose? Does the bullet know a Christian woman from a Muslim woman? The rest is history. It's been 22 years since Liberia war ended, and we've not reverted to violence. Is it because we sat on our hinds? The answer is a resounding no. Every period since 2005, when there are situations that will threaten our peace, women stand up, they mobilize, and they come together again. The work that is calling the women of Sudan cannot be done by 1325, I'm sorry. Beijing plus 30 will not do it for you. CEDAW will not do it for you. I remember one time when I worked with the South Sudanese women, and they were flying everywhere. I said to them, that was the one success of our movement. We refused to travel. That was one success of our movement. When they asked, they gave me, so you go put your movement to any big organization to get job, they will offer you, to get money. They will offer you as a leader the job. Oh, we need you to come and work for us. We'll pay you 6 figures. You are so smart, you should leave this. I tell myself, if I had left that job, where would we be? So today there will be many temptations. I was working with the Cameroonian women, and one of the strongest of them got a scholarship to go to Oxford. And she said, Mama Lema, what should I do? I said, don't take it. Don't take it. Because you see, when you sacrifice for peace, sometimes it comes back in ways that you never imagined. There was nothing that we didn't do. My home was the hotel. My home was the safe house. My home was my car. I had an old car. We used to call it GDC, the girls' dirty car. It took us everywhere. Evening time, if they said there was a problem here, we got in GDC. And GDC came in a moment when we were even coming down. It was around elections. But during our protest, there was this man who had an old rundown bus who would come and park it. The point that I'm making to you all is, one, there must be solidarity beyond tribes, religion, social status. Because for you to win wars, you have to bind together. Wars are divisional. Peace is about holding together. That's the first thing. The second thing, in order for you to win this war and bring Sudan closer to peace, you must not rely on international organizations, find local grown solutions, push for homegrown solutions. There are many people in the diaspora who cannot go back. How can you build alliances with groups within who are doing meaningful work to amplify what they are doing within there, so that the world knows that the women are not just sitting down? Do you know what women peace movements are? They are occupation. They are occupation. Militarism take over our spaces. Peace movement, when we step out, it was for us to deliberately transform the narrative of boys with guns to women who were struggling to change their community from that of a war-torn country to that of a peaceful country. So it must be something that is homegrown. You have partners with NALAFEM and other groups. Let them do all of the running around. Please do not disempower the strong groups within Sudan by pulling them out every week and saying, we need you to go to Oxford, we need you to come to NYU. I'm saying this. We need you to interview, we need you to do this, because until peace comes, this is not the moment to leave the war front. Let me ask you all a question. Have you ever seen rebel leaders travel a lot? Do you see them come to the UN a lot? What do? They send representatives. And their representatives are within those countries. When I was in Cameroon working with the women, a lot of those who were fighting with the Amazonian group were based in Washington, D.C. So the warlords were not leaving the war front. Feminist sisters, building peace is a battle. You cannot leave the war front for a minute. You have to have a sustained program. And that was the success of our work in Liberia. We sustained our advocacy. When there was no money, we didn't mind. We walked. When there was money, we did what we could do. When there was no water for the protest, we fasted. When women were taken or being abused, we went in our numbers. Some days when the women, one night, the whole group showed up at my house about 3 years ago. And we talked from 10 p.m. till 5 a.m. The laughter. But then one person asked me, where did you get your bravery from? I said, it's not that I wasn't afraid. But there is a moment, Aya, because you have chosen this path. And to all of you who call yourself leaders, there is a moment where it is never about you. It is about the struggle. So One of the stories they tell was we were going to see the then president. And the warlord was coming downstairs, and we were going upstairs. And yeah, all these men with AK-47 coming towards us. Clear the route, clear the route. The general is coming. And then they said, I have no clue. They said, I'm in front of the women and saying, do not step aside. I am also a general. So as they are stepping, I'm coming. And as they're coming in front of me, I say, get the hell out of my way. They will step aside. Get the hell out of my way. They will step aside. What I do remember is when I finally got to this warlord, he stepped aside and whispered to his bodyguard, who is she? The point that I make is, men with guns fear women who make peace. And that's why it's getting very difficult for feminist movements to operate. Should we allow this to stop us? No. Please remember, there is more for us than against us. What you have in your favor is 1325. We didn't have that. What you have in your favor is social media. We didn't have that. What you have in your favor today is cross-border solidarity. We had very little of that. What you have in your favor is an iPhone that can put your message out there. We didn't have that. What you do not have in your favor is the gullibility. You know how everyone is gullible, everyone wants to be seen. Building peace in Sudan, building a movement in Sudan will need the determination of everyone that our egos will not stand in the way. The ultimate should not be a Nobel Peace Prize. The ultimate should not be some recognition. The ultimate should be bringing that nation back to where it needs to be. Before I end, I will tell you all a secret. My proudest moment in my life is not when I stand on these platforms. I appreciate these platforms, but they are not my proudest moments. My proudest moments are those moments where I step into communities in my country and people say, this is the woman who helped bring peace to this nation. This is the mother of integrity, not the Nobel Peace Prize. Because at the end of the day, when we have all fought for peace, that is our legacy at home. Thank you. Oh, please sit.
That was incredible. I think we can all agree. We're all processing, right? Thank you so much, Lima, for reminding us and all of those incredible life-changing gems. And just honing in on some of her points is thank you for reminding us the real heroes are the women who are working in the emergency response rooms, the first responders. They are not the ones in the fancy building upstairs across the street. So thank you so much. And I hope everybody wrote down the men with guns fear women who strive for peace. Definitely need that tatted on me somewhere. All right. Just giving them a moment in the back. I am excited to share our next performer. Is Toshi in the building? Is Toshi here? Not yet. All right. Is Muna here? Okay, perfect. I'm excited to present Muna Abdul Wahab.
Assalamu alaikum, marhaba, welcome everybody. I'm happy that everybody's here tonight. I feel honored to share the mic and the stage with such amazing, influential, and important women. My name is Muna Abdul Wahab. I'm a student here at New York University. I'm a researcher at the Center for Global Affairs. I'm Sudanese first and foremost. And I'll be sharing some poetry with y'all today. Also, I'm based in New York. If anybody's based in New York and wants to add me to their community, please do. To start, I would like to share an ode to dirt floors and mud walls. And I would like to thank my family that is here, my family that is there, and my family that's in Sudan. My grandma used to live in the outskirts of the city, in this little village that my mother's side of the family absolutely hated it. Kariri Ajarafa, if y'all know it. She moved downtown now because her knees can't take the dirt floors anymore. You see, I discovered dirt floors from my grandmother's lap. I found culture in the perfumed hands she used to feed me with. The sun knew my curls better than my mother did. We wore pajamas all day because no one in the village cared. The moon looked down on us while we slept in the backyard on thin mattresses that laid on harsh metal frame beds. Morning breezes nudged us awake before the sun got too hot. We got up to sugar-covered fried dough and tiny cups of tea. My tongue curled around the words that should have been natural to me, syllables of a language I'm ashamed to say was foreign to my little ears. One that later became the only language my heart knew. By the time was gentle enough, just enough, to kiss our cheeks as we walked down the unpaved road to the little shop on the side of Old Man Zakaria's house. We'd grab our popsicles and with juice running down to our elbows, run back to the mud walls that made my grandma's house. I knew home in my grandmother's village. I found myself on the dirt floors that were the base the walls needed to make them home. Love knew me on dirt floors in mud walls. Do we have time for one more? Thank you. This, my friends, is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the soil, the Nile, and the smell of dirt. I pledge allegiance to kinks, curls, braids, and cornrows, to spices and perfume, to the songs my mom sings when she's homesick, to the songs my dad sings when he's homesick. I pledge allegiance to my grandmother's food, her laugh, her accent, her poetry, her simplicity, to the village, the city, and everything in between, to faulty road signs and dirty streets, to morals that guide religion, to tradition that makes religion, to the tobe wrapped around ebony bodies, and the jalabiya cascading down every man's body, to wearing colorful clothes to a funeral because we don't believe that being sad means wearing black. I pledge allegiance to a people that believes in kindness, to prayers said in every sentence, thank God muttered at the end of every conversation, and how are yous being asked at least 3 times when you meet someone. I pledge allegiance to the dirt that holds my grandparents, the dirt that covered my hair when I didn't care about being clean, to the dirt that colored my skin, to cloudy drinking water, to water straight from the Nile, to water you had to let settle before you drank, or else you would be drinking dirt, to never getting sick by that water, to Arab spices and African spices and made-up spices, to homemade liquors because drinking is illegal, to black magic that is performed in dance and laced through songs that only magicians knew, to the fact that my mother just had to go to one of those black magic parties and was grounded forever when her parents found out, to the fact that I'd probably get grounded too. I pledge allegiance to the drums and the oud, and the gungulez and la alob, to Sharhabil and Kabli, to Gumia, Bitzagriti. I pledge allegiance to the drums and the dance, to the drums, the drums, the drums. Thank you, everybody.
All the way from the Bronx. Thank you. There you go.
Thank you.
Wow, that was beautiful. I have chills. I'm sure many other people do too. MashaAllah. Okay, so now we're getting into a little bit of the core of our session together tonight. We will actually have a panel of speakers, and to introduce that panel, I'm going to reintroduce Aya to welcome our panelists to the stage, both virtually and in person.
Thank you. This working? Hello? Yes. Thank you so much. Oh my God, Mona, that was so beautiful and moving. So I'd like to welcome my panelists to the stage. Ines, Deborah, and Haneen, please join me as we have this conversations from political perspective, from humanitarian perspective. We're gonna also have other voices that will be joining us on video or on audio, members of the task force who weren't able to be here. So I'm gonna start with you, Ines. Ines Abdullah Abdurrahman. She is a fierce advocate for women, peace, and security with years of experience working with organizations like Strategic Initiative for Women in the Horn of Africa, among many hats. Ines just graduated 2 days ago for a master's degree. And she's pushing for accountability in Sudan, and she is an incredible and fierce activist. And my question for you, Ines, is giving us the context, but how do we critically analyze the next peace agreement and what strategy we can adopt to be more inclusive? I know we heard from Mama Leima on their process. Are we start thinking about what that would look like for Sudan?
Okay, first of all, thank you all for being here, because it means you either know what's going on in Sudan or you care to know about what's going on in Sudan. So the context of where I've been doing in the past years is that since 2019, we've been pushing for democracy or of a way of stopping the atrocities and the violation that was happening in Darfur. And we didn't know that after 4 years that is going to happen in the whole country, unfortunately. And from the analysis of the structure of what's going on in Sudan, it took us a long time to blur the line between what's going in the domestic violation and what's going on in the battlefield, and what it's mean that how women have been going through systematical violation that is now manifested in what's going on in Sudan. So I think from my perspective and from my analysis to the next peace agreement and to what have been said with Mama Lema is that we need to move forward to structural and I'm so sorry, but I feel a little bit emotional. Yeah. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, that's fine.
Please take your time. Take your time. Take your time. Okay, I hope my colleagues will hold space for Ines. It's yeah. So I'll move to Haneen. Ines, take your time. Haneen Ahmed, External Officer of Localization Coordination Council of Emergency Response Rooms, Sudan. She is the bridge, really, between grassroots action and international advocacy, fighting for Sudanese women's rights to safety, protection, and dignity. Haneen, what is the humanitarian situation on the ground? This whole day you've been on your phone, doing advocacy here and checking in on the ground and what's happening, and there were big atrocities that happened just today, just being with you, but that is the reality every day. But also, tell us a bit more about the emergency relief work that you're doing, and give us the picture also around sexual-based violence.
Good afternoon, or good evening, right? We passed it all in the afternoon. Okay. So, good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for NALAFAM and New York University for give us this platform. Mama Lamia made it strong and hard for all of us. We couldn't even, for me as a humanitarian aid worker, I couldn't even forgetting everything. I woke up early morning from my safe dream, a nice dream, on a war in my town. It was too hard, but because as a woman, we have beliefs, we have faith in our capabilities, in our solidarity, starting back in 2018 with Sudanese community and other women elites groups. We start emergency response rooms on the ground. The emergency response rooms is a grassroots body, mass grassroots body, operating in 12 states in Sudan as an agile. We have a recognition, we got recognized from different international agencies like USAID before it dismantled, and the UN, OCHA, and other different international community. We have been operating since second or first day of war, responding to the all needs coming from the ground, as a shining, light in complete darkness. And due to that work, we have been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize for 2024 and 2025. Yeah, as Mama Lamia said, it is not the proudness, but we feel proud when we save life. As I said, since early morning, I keep checking my phone because there is a lady, she's kidnapped by RSF, and they ask for a huge money to release her. And successfully, she's released right now, she's free. But yes, every day we are facing such like things. And get back to the emergency response room is a structured body. We are getting funds from the different international donors. We are providing kind of different activities like communal soup kitchens. We are providing maintenance in shelters, evacuation centers, while providing protection in terms of evacuation, where we have women response rooms. The women response room, we have trauma healing centers. We are providing sexual health, reproductive and sexual health protocols. We are operating in health mobile clinics and in health facilities like hospitals and small health facility centers in Sudan across different states. We are working in different contexts, very diversified, and I learned a lot from my leaders on the ground. As I said, that we are facing different sexual violence cases, and many, I cannot even count them. But in October 2023, 2024, last year. We have successfully saved 150 cases from Al Jazeera mass evacuation. They got raped, and we provide safe houses for those ladies. Right now, I have 10 cases. I'm not able to help them, unfortunately, because the lack of fund, because of fund suspension from the U.S. government, and we have 75% of our fund getting from the U.S. government. 3 of those ladies are being continuously raped, are being pushed from the 3rd floor, so they get fractioned, and we are not able to do anything to help them. One of the other ladies, she gets raped by a piece of wood.
Oh my God, I can't.
Yes. We have like these stories. And due to bleeding, she passed away. We couldn't save her life. Yeah, in Darfur, this is what's happened due to the ethnic conflict. Yeah. So, and let's get back to the funds freezing. We have 500 out of 800 soup kitchens are being tried. So it's, I can't even explain what is it, how I feel from a lady back in 2018 start fighting as a frontline defender for peace, for democracy, for justice to my women on the ground, on the grassroots. And right now, I'm trying to prioritize, do you need a dignity kits? Do you need an evacuation, or do you need a bowl of fava-bean? What is your priority? I can't even evacuate someone who he might die, because I should give someone else, he might die for famine. And we have a child, he get killed because of a sandwich of falafel. This is the situation on the ground. So I'm sorry I give you very bad energy, but yeah, this is the reality on the ground. Yeah.
Thank you, Haneen, and thank you for your bravery and for your courage. And I know you left Sudan also because being personally subjected to many of these atrocities. Deborah, I come to you. Deborah is the Deputy Minister of Youth and Sport in South Sudan. And she has championed policies to empower young people. She has seen firsthand Sudan war affect South Sudanese communities, believe in cross-border collaboration. And Deborah, I want you to give us more the regional context, how the war is impacting women in South Sudan, giving the region shared history, and what lessons from South Sudan peace process that can inform what's happening today.
Thank you, Aya, and greetings to the audience. First of all, what I would like to know, to let everybody know, is that South Sudan has been under the same hardships for a very, very long time, even before they broke away from Sudan. And so the stories that they are sharing here are not new to the southern Sudanese people. They have been under such condominium for a very long time, until they only had one option, to break away. But then what we all didn't know was that as the South breaks away, the Sudan government will turn against its own people to kill them, because they have no other southerner that they could kill. So they have to turn against their people, which is very, very unlikely, and it's heartbreaking. So the stories of women are common across the borders. The women in South Sudan go through the same hardships, because South Sudan is also at war within itself right now. So the same stories are just across, because we have very similar cultures. 90% of South Sudanese speak Arabic, and they have all the cultures like adopted. When you go to South Sudan, you will of course think, why are they South Sudanese and they have similar cultures with the northern Sudan? And things to do with the rape. are very rampant in South Sudan as well, because now the warring parties use women as the tools for their fighting. The rebels would use the women as well as the government, because they are caught up in between. They have no sides, and they do not really participate in the starting of the war, but they end up being the victims of the war, because each one of them want to weaken the other by using women. So that's it's a very unfortunate situation, and it is a situation that we want to be in solidarity with our sisters in the Sudan. We are under the same situation, but the one in the north is a little bit to the extreme than the one in the south. So we need to be in solidarity with our sisters in the north, with our mothers in the north, and we do not want to shy away from saying it, that stop the atrocities, stop violating women, because a woman's body is sacred. It's something that must be respected, because everybody, including Hamdok, Hemiti, all of them were born of women. But then that should let them know that a woman's body is sacred. On the other side of the regional perspective, we cry at the international platforms, but really very little happens at the on the ground, because the reason is that these people that are fighting each other are the ones that have access to the ground. For us at the international level, we only sit at panel discussions like this in the meeting rooms, but then very little support goes to the ground. So now I would really suggest and would strongly propose that there is an impact that happens to the ground. Like the organization that Hanin is leading, and she's here mobilizing the resources to go to the ground. This is where people can come in, the international community, African Union, IGAD, and the United Nations, to put in resources. Because at some point she shared with us that she had to use her own money to pay as a ransom for a woman to be released. So if that is what we need to do to be able to release more women from the captivity of the RSF or the government, whichever side that is holding the women captive, we need to give them the resources to be able to do that, to have the impact on the ground. We need to have a cross-border collaboration, solidarity. When women in the Sudan are affected, it should also affect the women in the southern Sudan, as well as the women in Ethiopia, in Egypt, and in Central African Republic, whichever countries that are bordering each other, that the women come together. They can go, the women, if there was a task force for women, when RSF were in Kenya, trying to establish their own parallel government to the government in the Sudan, the women would have intervene in that room, and this is not the option. We don't need two governments in one country. Sit at the table, negotiate, and agree on the way forward. So this is where we need the women now to have strong movements, strong mobilizations, and strong voices across the borders, so that they can intervene in this situation. Yeah, I think I will leave it there.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Thank you. We have a video from Ikhlas, if it's ready. Ikhlas Ahmed from Strategic Initiative for Horn of Africa. She has spent years documenting cases of sexual violence in Sudan. She has seen the horror of the conflict, yet she continues to fight for justice. Her work with Darfur Advocacy Group is critical in holding perpetrators accountable.
Hello everyone, my name is Ikhlas Ahmed and I'm a women's rights defender from Sudan, particularly focusing on the ongoing crisis in Darfur. It's an honor to be part of this critical discussion, even though I was unable to attend CSW 69 in person due to visa issues. However, my commitment to amplify the voices of Sudanese women remains unwavering. Today, I want to highlight the devastating impact of war on women and the urgent need for global action. The ongoing war in Sudan has turned sexual and gender-based violence into a weapon of war, with women and girls bearing the brand of systematic and targeted attacks. the breakdown of law and order, the militarization of communities, and the mass displacement of millions have left women extremely vulnerable to rape, sexual slavery, abduction, and other forms of SGBV. At Darfur Advocacy Group, we have been documenting these horrific crimes against women, particularly in North Darfur. The RSF militia have been deliberately targeting women and girls based on their ethnicity. Some women have been abducted for as long as 8 months. Just imagine, held in captivity by RSF, subjected to repeated rape and forced labor. We have a case of a woman who was abducted for 64 days, enduring unspeakable abuse before she was released before 5 days. Survivors who managed to escape or are released face severe stigma, lack of medical and psychological support, and an absence of justice mechanism to hold perpetrators accountable. Despite these challenges, Sudanese women's networks and grassroots organizations have stepped in where the state has failed. We are documenting cases, providing support services, and advocating for accountability, even at greater personal risk. However, these efforts remain underfunded and unsupported. Young Sudanese women have been at the forefront of resistance. But resistance in Sudan is not just about raising voices. In my own point of view, it's also about fighting for survival. In Al-Fashir, North Darfur, young women and girls have taken up arms to defend their dignity, their families, and their land. Women are standing side by side with men on the front lines, not as passive victims, but as fighters, as defenders, and as protectors of their communities. Through digital activism, community-led initiatives, and survivor support programs, young women are also breaking the silence and documenting and demanding justice. Many are risking their safety to gather evidence of crimes, ensuring that the world doesn't ignore what is happening in Sudan. The world can no longer afford to stand by in silence, and as Sudanese women continue to suffer the most brutal forms of violence, the international community must move beyond statements of concern and take concrete urgent action to stop violations against women in Sudan. A global call to action must include accountability for crimes against women, immediate investigation and prosecutions of sexual violence as war crimes and crimes against humanity, sanction on perpetrators and enablers of gender-based violence. The siege on Al-Fashir must be lifted immediately. The UN and humanitarian organizations must be granted full access to deliver life-saving aid and provide protection for displacement women. Any peace agreement that excludes women or ignores their suffering and leadership will only deepen the cycle of violence and impunity. The global community must listen to Sudanese women, fund their initiatives, and ensure they have a seat at every table where decisions about Sudan's future are being made. The world must recognize that ignoring Sudanese women's suffering is complicity in these crimes. We need action, we need accountability, and we need solidarity.
Women. I mean, Ikhlas is 27. You are 27 as well, and like they're all under 30, and they're doing this incredible work on the front line. Do we have Samah voice note and Mama Samia Al-Hashmi? Which one we're starting with?
Ladies and gentlemen,
Okay,
Your
wait.
Excellencies, greetings, and thanks to Nala
What's
Fama New York University for hosting us and for their flexibility in making this event happen, even when we couldn't attend in person. Your commitment to amplify our voices and standing in solidarity with Sudanese women is deeply appreciated. I believe ensuring that requires a holistic and inclusive approach. It's not enough for our participation to be symbolic, it must be institutionalized and meaningful. This can be achieved through quotas and enforceable policies that guarantee our meaningful participation at every level of the peace processes. But when I talk about quotas, I don't mean just the conventional ones that focus solely on numbers. The disadvantaged women voices must be heard also. We need platforms where these women lived experiences can directly influence the direction of negotiation, offering gender-sensitive perspectives that are too often unheard. Moreover, we must secure funding and support for women-led organizations, especially as international donors pull back or shift focus. This funding gap has left many women-led groups struggling to maintain their operations. Women on the front line, displaced, refugees, and marginalized communities are already vulnerable, and it's crucial that they receive support to continue advocating for peace and justice. Lastly, we must challenge and dismantle the gender-blind patriarchal structures within national and international peace-building frameworks. We need peace processes that acknowledge and address the unique intersectional struggle women face, including those shaped by race, class, and geography. Only when we recognize the diversity of women experiences and leadership can we create sustainable peace that truly reflect all women's needs. The world have seen how young feminists in Sudan have mobilized for inclusive decision-making and political participation. Our strategies have been effective because they combine grassroots organizing, digital activism, and coalition building. Grassroots efforts are at the heart of our mobilization, creating spaces for dialogues and collective actions. An example of this is repeal of the public order laws in 2019, which were a significant victory for us during the transitional period following the revolution. These laws targeted us by restricting our space, movement, dress, behavior under the guise of morality. Digital activism has also played a huge role in mobilizing us. Social media platforms have allowed us to raise awareness, document gender-based violence, and amplifying our voices despite the limited access to the traditional media. There were many hashtags during the revolution have resonated globally, bringing attention to our revolution and the struggle and building solidarity. We also take an intersectional approach to advocacy, recognizing that women's rights are human rights. This includes ethnic discrimination, military rule, and economic injustice, and now the conflict-related sexual violence. International solidarity efforts are vital in amplifying our voices in peace processes. They help bring visibility to our struggle, like what we are doing now, raising awareness about the atrocities Sudanese women face, and offer crucial support for local activism. Global networks, including feminist organizations, international bodies, and the global student movement, can help elevate Sudanese women leadership, ensuring we are not just included in peace talks, but actively shaping them. Furthermore, international solidarity must address the broader issues fueling violence in Sudan. As a key part of this is demanding an immediate halt to arms trading. We must push for an arms embargo and demand all involved countries to stop supplying the war and fueling it. Additionally, we must oppose any attempt to divide Sudan. Such effort would only tear apart the already fragile social fabric, exacerbating the suffering of all Sudanese people, especially women. Unity is essential to the future of Sudan, and we must resist any attempt to fragment the country. In closing, I call for solidarity with Sudanese women and commitment to ensuring that we have a central role in peace processes. Together, we can end the violence, demand accountability, and ensure that Sudanese women are integral to building a peaceful, just, and inclusive future. Thank you for listening.
We have one last intervention before we wrap up, because we want to hear from Jaha, and I'm going to leave the closing to you. But Mama Samia Al-Hashmi, it couldn't be complete without her. She has been in the struggle for so long, and this task force is multi-generational, so we need to hear her voice.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Samia Al-Hashmi. I'm a lawyer. I'm a women's rights activist and peace builder. My intervention going to focus on hate speech as one of the main causes of reducing women participation in peace process. Actually, the hostile environment created by hate speech reduced the women participation in peace process. A specific example for that is the question of representation and question of delegation. This lead to reduce the women participation in peace process. Also, undermining peace efforts, the hate speech undermines the legitimacy and effectiveness of peace processes by fostering division and conflict and polarization. Actually, I think Sudanese women have every right to represent women whenever and wherever they find an opportunity to spread the word of peace. What we shall do for that, what kind of measures that we can take to reduce this hate speech or to encounter this hate speech. What we need is to enact a law preventing and criminalizing hate speech and gender-based violence. Also, regulatory oversight, monitor and penalize the hate speech during war or any time. I think we need this regulatory oversight. Awareness and education. We need to focus and to make some effort by organizing public campaigns, raising awareness about harm of the hate speech. Also, training and education, organizing countering hate speech. And one of the important training is to be fostered in the curriculum and the educational institutions, schools, universities, training centers. Also, we need support services, provide legal and psychosocial support for the victim. Hate speech is harmful for communities, for individuals. Also, we think this hate speech most of the time is through digital instruments, social media for spreading hate speech. What we need is digital safety, ensure safe online space free of from harassment. Further, inclusive policies and practices promote inclusivity by encouraging political parties and organizations to adopt inclusive policies that promote women participation. This includes setting quotas for women candidates and leaders, engagement of men as allies, involvement in effort to counter hate speech and promote gender equality. Also encourage political leaders to speak against hate speech and support women participation. Also, collaboration and partnership, multi-stakeholders collaboration, fostering collaboration between government, civil society organizations, tech companies, and international bodies to address hate speech and ensure women's safety. Also, the international standard adhere works that protect women's rights, promote gender equality, such Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. All these measures could reduce fostering or reduce the widespread of hate speech. Hate speech ultimately lead to genocide and harm in the community.
Greeting to you all. This is Safa Al-Agib Adam, a Sudanese women peace and gender activist, a refugee in Chad in Adare camp. Dear participants, distinguished guests, women and girls of courage of the 69th session of Peking Plus 30. I am here virtually connected with you to share my experience, and I'm happy to focus in the intergenerational co-leadership civilian protection in Sudan. After the Sudan independence in 1956 to date, Sudanese women movement journey to engage in politics and peace process never stopped. It continued by demanding to participate in the parliament in 1968 and got it. Additionally, in different peace talk from CPA, Comprehensive Peace Agreement, Darfur Peace Agreement, Doha, and recently Juba Peace Talk after the December Revolution 2019. The revolution, which had been led by youth and women calling for democratic civilian government with human rights and women equal participation at all levels of decision making. Despite some of gains in 40% quota representation, but the implementation results were disappointing by excluding women with huge lashback after the current war. Yet, youth and women continue working jointly, developing women's agenda for peace and advocating nationally, regionally, at AU, IGAD, and internationally to UN to amplify the voices of the Sudanese women to participate and bring peace and stop war in different platforms. This advocacy was consolidated by networks of women at the global and regional level, like the Nobel Women initiatives, Peace Women Across the Globe, Initiative for Inclusive Security, Femme Africa Solidarityn, FemWise, Feminist, Women Waging Peace, and now Nala Fem, and so on. After the revolution, the first intergenerational Sudan women delegates to the UN Security Council debate on women, peace and security was in October 2019, including the civil society delegate to the Human Rights Council in Geneva, September 2019. It was a youth and intergenerational delegate. In addition to this, in Sudan, there were so many local initiatives led by women and revolutionary forces for protection of civilians and addressing the conflict-related sexual violence. After the brutal genocidal war in Sudan, several civil society initiatives of women and youth networks emerged to stop the war, protect civilians, and end sexual gender-based violence in Sudan. Mainly this group of women, youth, who call to stop war, like Resistance Committee, Emergency Response Room, lawyers and human rights defenders. These initiatives are instrumental in leading life-saving services in hospitals, medical psychosocial support, and trauma centers, and displaced and refugees camps. They report and document rape, sexual-based violence incidents, including petition, advocacy, and media campaign calling for actions and accountability to atrocities of genocide, sexual-based violence crimes. This work also, it has been worked collaboratively with the youth and senior leaders to strengthen the Sudanese women advocacy for peace. That was take the shape of building on the inspiration of the youth. They are inspired by change. They are got the energy and enthusiasm and the digital innovation leading to for change as they build on the various capacities of young professionals and activists and merge it into the accumulated experience of lessons learned and best practice of Sudanese women senior leader activists who pave the way by supporting and acknowledging the role of youth and young women in change. The alliance of both created intergenerational multiplier which accelerated and transformed this power into actions using arts, songs, positive social media platform, call for gender equality, peace messages, and anti-hate speech, an important role of youth and young women participation as citizens of rights and equal engagement in shaping the future of Sudan. Such engagement has to continue to sustain the peace for peace and not for war. Hence, there is a need for a concrete action by the Women and Feminist Global Campaign to protect civilians in Sudan, immediate action to stop war and protect civilians, especially women and girls, from sexual-based violence in Sudan is urgent. It is important and to advocate for urgent action by UN Security Council and regional mechanisms like AU and the peace and security missions to accelerate these actions of protections. To put in place civilian protection mechanism in Sudan and keep sexual gender-based violence criminals accountable for their crimes and atrocities. And any peace negotiation or political process in Sudan or settlement should include women not less than 50% and be gender sensitive. Thank you. In solidarity we remain.
خواتي وحبيباتي من نساء السودان، تحية إلكم وكل احترامي وكل حبي إلكم. أنا زينب سلبي من العراق، أتكلم معكم وأوصلكم تحية وحب واحترام لقواتكم، وأعرف أنه الأمور هالأيام والأيام صعبة كثير 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 بالحروب والقتل وكل هالأشياء، بس عرفوا أنه في يوم من الأيام رح تمر هاي، والأصوات اللي رح تبقى هي صوت المرأة، صوت قوة المرأة وحب المرأة ومبادئ المرأة واحترام المرأة. بالنهاية بالتاريخ صوتكم اللي هو رح يأثر على التاريخ وعلى مستقبل السودان، وليس صوت الناس اللي جايبين بالسلاح وبالقتل وبالكل هالأشياء. نحن معكم بكل حبنا ومن كل قلبنا، ونأيدكم بكل مبادئكم وحبكم ونضالكم للسلام وللحقوق والمساواة لكل الشعب السوداني نساء ورجالا والكل. فإحنا معاكم، لا تتكئبوا. يجوز أكو أيام حتكونوا متكئبات، أعرف، بس آمنوا أنه فد يوم من الأيام راح تمر. ودا أقول لكم أنا مو بس عراقية، أنا اشتغلت بحروب من البوسنة إلى رواندا إلى كونغو إلى مختلف الدول العالم. راح يجي اليوم واللي صوتكم راح ينتصر واللي حبكم راح ينتصر، وإحنا كليتنا معاكم ونحتفل بيكم بهاليوم بهالشهر المرأة، بس بكل يوم وبكل شهر وكل يوم دائما أنتم موجودون في قلبنا، في دعائنا، في حبنا إلكم. مع كل حبي وكل احترامي وكل تحياتي لنساء البطلات من السودان.
I'd like a call to action from each of you as we conclude, and I hope you feel better, Haneen. This is heavy, this is not easy, but you are the bravest women I know, and you keep this fight going. Your call to action.
Yeah. I don't know, I think I just during Mama Lama was talking about the history, about the things that have been through in Liberia. For a moment I realized that we are now living this history, and it's a very critical moment of Sudanese women. And also during my work in
Is it working?
but I can talk, yeah. And during my work with Norwegian Refugee Council in the border with Ethiopia, not to undermine the struggles that the other population have been through, but when I went to Uganda last month, I realized that those are my people, and this is happening really in my country. So now when we are sitting, I just had a moment of realization that we are talking about something that's going on now in my country. And this kind of moment kicked me during something that is really touched through history of Liberia. And the numbers of the violation that's happening are really women that it could be me, but I'm privileged enough to be sitting now and being safe. And this is something that guaranteed to certain people in the world, unfortunately, because we're struggling from the militarization side of the government. And the call of action that I want to do is that we're not supposed to settle for less. Anything that happened in Sudan happened because through time, Sudan have been signing 9 peace agreements until now, and all the time we settle for less. Grievances start to increase, and because we forget what happened in the past and we don't push for accountability, women endure this in a very periodic way. It's become a pattern now. So dismantling all of these things that Samah just said and you just mentioned, and also you mentioned from South Sudan, we need really to amplify those all voices and just pushing through to accept that what happening are not numbers, and the woman that is going through could be, unfortunately, any part of us. I'm so sorry, but it's really. Today we've been talking a lot about a lot of things that is going on in Sudan, and it's now touching me in so many ways. But yeah, I just want to thank everyone that has been watching or keeping going with the things that is going on in Sudan. It's not just numbers. This is things that are happening in a country that has been safe for a long time. We've been living there, and now we are displaced, and still until now there is women in Sudan going through a lot of things. So please, it's personal and sister advice that keep sharing, keep your eye on Sudan. Things are going there are not easy, and they never stopped, and now we are turning 2 years of violations. Thank you so much, and yeah,
Thank you so much, honey.
Okay, one last word. As someone who was on the ground for a movement, denied the war in a peaceful way, providing humanitarian aid, and suing the community fabrics that destroyed by war, building peace during these hard times. I need more funds, the actionable points. I need changing the humanitarian landscape from the gender perspective. It should be more gender sensitive, because yes, we get funds when we go to the institutional donors and negotiate with them that we want more funds. They said it's okay, yeah, we have fund for food, we have fund for whatever, water or shelter, but we don't have fund for women, and women, they are in need. So we need to advocate for more gender sensitive in terms of policies, in terms of funds, in terms of those stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My call to action, especially in the Sudan crisis, number one is to cease fire, to stop fighting, and give a chance to peaceful dialogues. That's number one. Number two is to respect women. Women are not the enemy here. They are just victims. And they are victims because they do not support either of the sides. So each one of the sides is using them as weapon of war. Number three is to give access to humanitarian support to reach the vulnerable population in Sudan. And to go to the negotiating table, because at the end of the day, it is just about positions. It is purely political. So let them sit, let them divide the positions, and let them stop killing the innocent women and children. This would be my call to action. Thank you.
Thank you. Please appreciate all of them. Thank you so much. And as I lend my voice on the three of you, and I think one thing you could do is sign the petition as a start, but more you could do is to get in touch with three of them to support. Thank you so much again for your courage and for your words. And I'm gonna violate the MCs. I'm gonna straight introduce Jaha Dukure, who is the founder of Safe Hands for Girls. She's a council member of Nala Femme. She's another fighter, a women leader. She led a movement in her country, in the Gambia, against FGM practices, and she passed the bill to ban FGM 10 years ago and fought again last year to keep the bill. So this is another fierce young woman who's doing the work on the ground. Jaha, welcome.
Thank you so much, Aya, and good evening, everyone. CSW is such a crazy time that a lot of us are booked everywhere, and I made a commitment to be somewhere else, and I'm like, but I love our community as Nala and the work that you do. And listening to these young women and what you guys have seen, what you have survived. I've never been in a situation where I faced war. I've seen gender-based violence in my country, and I've known about the suffering that women go through, but I have never, been in your situation. So your strength and your courage to even sit in front of us and, share this, it shows the strength that women have. And I think all we can do is to show solidarity. All we can do is to find ways that we can support you and amplify your voices in whatever way we can. I think as African women, we have a moral obligation to ensure that the suffering our sisters are going through in South Sudan does not go unnoticed. And the work that is being led by young feminists, that the world knows, and that you guys get the support that you deserve. What we have faced in the Gambia is nowhere close to what you are dealing with right now. In the case of the Gambia, nearly 10 years after they passed the law against FGM, last year they came back and said that they wanted to repeal that law. And when that happened, it was in the international community that stood with us. It was young feminists from across the continent, including people like Aya and our collective at Nala, that helped us uphold that ban. Before international community responded to the rapid response, we mobilized and we came together and ensured that survivor voices in the Gambia were heard. Lawmakers upheld that bill, not because of any pressure from the international community, but because of the work that was done by communities and civil society and survivors as a whole. So tonight, I know I had a statement of what I was supposed to read and what I was supposed to say, but I can't. you know, I don't even think I should speak after you guys spoke, because this is about you. And we just want you to know that we support you, we see you, we love you, and our hands are around you. We may not be able to give you a lot. We may not be able to, you know, if I had that power or those resources, you will not be in the situation that you are in right now. But we will do everything we can to make sure that the world knows about what's happening in Sudan. We are standing with you, demanding peace. And at Nala Fem, I think one thing that's so unique about the work that we do as a council is that whenever African women are suffering anywhere, we come together and we try to figure it out. And we are not stopping today. We are demanding peace for South Sudan, and we are demanding peace for those women that are being sexually violated every single day. Thank you, guys.
We're just closing.
Yeah, we're closing.
Also feels weird to close after, but just want to add to that, feeling a lot of gratitude for everyone who's spoken, for your courage. I've been on a lot of different roundtables over the past 2 years, mostly with Palestinian folks and with Sudanese folks, listening to them have to explain their humanity to folks with power. And it just breaks my heart every time anyone has to explain and has to humanize and has to say again everything that you all already know. And so I just want to thank you all for sharing, for opening this space to us, and +1 that commitment, both as Nala Femme, but also as an activist here who works on immigrant justice, committed against that Muslim ban, as we know is going to drop, and in supporting asylum seekers here in New York City, many of whom are Sudanese and Arabic speaking, that the city does not know about or speak about or support. And that is the work that I'm committed to continuing to do. Pass it to you. Paul.
That was beautifully said, and I think that's the lesson for all of us walking out, having some sort of action step, a way to follow up. We definitely felt the grief in this room today. But with that grief, I don't want you guys to just take it home and pack it up. It's more so, well, what pages can I follow? What petitions can I sign? Who can I reach out to? Who can I donate to? How can I continue advancing this movement? Because the work has just begun for those who are new to this cause, and continue following the work of Nala and other organizations doing such important work and bringing in folks, first responders, to have these conversations with us. We shouldn't be taking that for granted at all. I also want to note, we also have a small token in the back. If folks can just grab a small Post-it. We have some Post-its and markers in the back. Just how do you plan on moving this conversation forward, moving the movement forward? So please include your action step moving forward. What are you gonna do for Sudan? How are you gonna contribute to this cause? Just go ahead and stick it on the wall, whether that is continuing to follow Nala Feminist Group. That's going to be donating to ERRs? Are you going to sign the petition? How are you going to move it forward? And the responsibility and the accountability continues to fall back on us, and the international community has blood on our hands, and we have a lot of work to do when it comes to Sudan. So I just want to thank everyone for being here on a Friday night.
And get some food. Yeah. 'Cause it's free. Can I give you a hug?
Yes.
Dude, what a happy life. What a happy life.
I think you're a great duo. You should do this. We just met, right?
Yeah, we just met. No way.
Greeting to you all. This is Safa Al-Agib Adam, a Sudanese women peace and gender activist, a refugee in Chad in Adare camp. Dear participants, distinguished guests, women and girls of courage of the 69th session of Pekin Plus 30. I am here virtually connected with you to share my experience, and I'm happy to focus in the intergenerational co-leadership civilian protection in Sudan. After the Sudan independence in 1956 to date, Sudanese women movement journey to engage in politics and peace process never stopped. It continued by demanding to participate in the parliament in 1968 and got it. Additionally, in different peace talk from CPA, Comprehensive Peace Agreement, Darfur Peace Agreement, Doha, and recently Juba Peace Talk after the December Revolution 2019. The revolution, which had been led by youth and women calling for democratic civilian government with human rights and women equal participation at all levels of decision making. Despite some of gains in 40% quota representation, but the implementation results were disappointing by excluding women with huge lashback after the current war. Yet, youth and women continue working jointly, developing women's agenda for peace and advocating nationally, regionally, at AU, IGAD, and internationally to UN to amplify the voices of the Sudanese women to participate and bring peace and stop war in different platforms. This advocacy was consolidated by networks of women at the global and regional level, like the Noble Women Initiative, Peace Women Across the Globe, Initiative for Inclusive Security, Femme Africa Solidarityn, FemWise, Feminist, Women Waging Peace, and now Nala Fem, and so on. After the revolution, the first intergenerational Sudan women delegates to the UN Security Council debate on women, peace and security was in October 2019, including the civil society delegate to the Human Rights Council in Geneva, September 2019. It was a youth and intergenerational delegate. In addition to this, in Sudan, there were so many local initiatives led by women and revolutionary forces for protection of civilians and addressing the conflict-related sexual violence. After the brutal genocidal war in Sudan, several civil society initiatives of women and youth networks emerged to stop the war, protect civilians, and end sexual gender-based violence in Sudan. Mainly this group of women, youth, who call to stop war, like Resistance Committee, Emergency Response Room, lawyers and human rights defenders. These initiatives are instrumental in leading life-saving services in hospitals, medical psychosocial support, and trauma centers, and displaced and refugees camps. They report and document rape, sexual-based violence incidents, including petition, advocacy, and media campaign calling for actions and accountability to atrocities of genocide, sexual-based violence crimes. This work also, it has been worked collaboratively with the youth and senior leaders to strengthen the Sudanese women advocacy for peace. That was take the shape of building on the inspiration of the youth. They are inspired by change. They are got the energy and enthusiasm and the dedicated innovation leading to for change as they build on the various capacities of young professionals and activists and merge it into the accumulated experience of lessons learned and best practice of Sudanese women senior leader activists who pave the way by supporting and acknowledging the role of youth and young women in change. The alliance of both created intergenerational multiplier which accelerated and transformed this power into actions using arts, songs, positive social media platform, call for gender equality, peace messages, and anti-hate speech, an important role of youth and young women participation as citizens of rights and equal engagement in shaping the future of Sudan. Such engagement has to continue to sustain the peace for peace and not for war. Hence, there is a need for a concrete action by the Women and Feminist Global Campaign to protect civilians in Sudan, immediate action to stop war and protect civilians, especially women and girls, from sexual-based violence in Sudan is urgent. It is important and to advocate for urgent action by UN Security Council and regional mechanisms like AU and the peace and security missions to accelerate these actions of protections. To put in place civilian protection mechanism in Sudan and keep sexual gender-based violence criminals accountable for their crimes and atrocities. And any peace negotiation or political process in Sudan or settlement should include women not less than 50% and be gender sensitive. Thank you. In solidarity, we remain.